Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be looking at this album. It's Peter Gabriel's third solo record, third album called Peter Gabriel. It's also sort of called Melt or like Peter Gabriel 3, but call it what you want. I'm going to be reviewing the album today. I'll give a bit of background information about it, then show you my vinyl copy and then go over each of the album songs in detail. So as said, his third solo record released on the 23rd of May in 1980. It was produced by Steve Lillywhite, who Gabriel had chosen after hearing XTC's song Making Plans for Nigel. He really liked the drum sound, especially on that song which Lillywhite had produced. Sessions for the record went smoothly by all accounts. By all accounts, there was no animosity between Gabriel and the producer, all the other session musicians. And by this point in time, his solo career, he'd had a degree of success with his first two records, but he was finding it difficult to fully escape the shadow of Genesis. In the studio, experimentation was rife, especially all the drums on this record, where all cymbals were removed. There's no hi-hat, no crash, no ride cymbals. Everything was played on tom-toms, and the bass drum, and snares, which gives the record a very sort of darker, quite a gutsy feel to it. However, in America, his label Atlantic, when they heard the record, they didn't like it, and they actually dropped Gabriel from the label. However, once the record was issued in America, it came out on the Mercury label, and it was a hit album for him. Atlantic tried to persuade him back. So as I said, it was a real sort of commercial breakthrough for him, for him as a solo artist, topping the UK charts, and it hit number 22 in America, and critically the album was highly praised, and was actually ranked at number 45 on Rolling Stone magazine's top 100 80s albums list. So I'll now show you about a copy of it here. This is just a standard UK pressing, quite easy to find this. I'm sure I must have paid about a £5 for this or something like that, out a record fair. There's the inner sleeve, what you get with it, and the record label looks like this. There's no other insert or anything, but the label is quite nice to it. So yes, that's the vinyl record looked at. Okay, so I'm now going to go over each of the album songs. I'll score each track out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. The first song is called Intruder, which begins with this very sort of strong drum beat, actually played by Phil Collins, of all people. I was actually quite surprised when I found that he was involved with this record, because of course he was in the same band as Gabriel, so you would have thought that they would have maybe fallen out or something over the breakup of Genesis, but they must have stayed friends, because Collins plays drums on this song here. It has some quite off-kilter vocal sounds on it, and supposedly this was the first use of the gated vocal sound, which would come to kind of define the 80s. It is quite a creepy and very intense song, this. His vocal sounds very close up to you, it isn't a track which I would play in isolation off the record, but it certainly opens up the album very well, and it remains interesting throughout. And I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to stop. Next one is called No Self-Control, which is another really interesting track. It begins with this very tense Mariba motive, which goes throughout the verse, but the chorus kind of changes up a bit, which works really well. It's got quite a sort of paranoid atmosphere to it, quite Bowie-esque as well, kind of sort of similar feeling to what he was doing on the Lodger and Scary Monsters album. This was also the second single from the record, and it got to number 33 on the UK charts. Okay, now the next one is a song called Start, which isn't really much of a song. It's more off an instrumental link piece. It's less than 2 minutes long, this. You've got a nice saxophone on it, but as I said, it doesn't really serve much of a purpose, other than being an introduction to the next song. And the next song is easily one of my favourites on the record. It's called I Don't Remember. And this begins amazingly with this quite sort of futuristic sounding sort of throbbing bass start, which kicks off the song, really gets you right into the track. And like it really it manages to rock this song but also stay funky. Like it's a great track this. It's also got an incredible vocal performance like from Gabriel like on it, like as well as like fantastic production like from like Lily White. I am actually surprised that this wasn't like a like hit single. Like I'm not even sure like if it was like issued like as a single, because it's such a catchy song, like such a brilliant track there. I don't remember we get a 10 out of 10. And then the next one is called Family Snapshot, which this song has quite an interesting like backstory to it. Like according to Wikipedia, it was influenced by a book called The Assassin's Diary, which was written by a man who like tried to kill like a politician like who like was in support of like racial segregation. The song is very sort of the song has like a lot of sections to it, like quite sort of musical theatre like inspired, like getting like more like intense like as like the song goes on, like to the point like where like the character like actually like carries out like this killing. Another famous name like who appears on this song is Dave Gregory from XTC. Like I think like he's also on like a lot of like the other tracks like on here. Like he contributes like some great guitar throughout this album. And then closing off side one, we get my personal favourite like on the album, And Through the Wire, which I just love the way this song kicks off like with like the chorus. Like there's no mucking about in this track. We just get to the chorus and it's so brilliant. Again, it's very catchy, but like again interesting though, and like very like well produced this track. Another guest star like is on this song, like actually quite a surprising one, Paul Weller like from like the Jam. Like you would never like imagine him like on like a Peter Gabriel record, because of that kind of completely sort of different like musical like outlooks. Like one's like a kind of like progressive rock like dinosaur, like if like you were like the other's like a young like angry punk. So like yeah, but the styles work like so well together, like, and like Weller like does some great guitar work like on this track here. The song's got some nice contrasting sections to it. Like it's not all like kind of rocking, like it goes like a bit quieter like for the verses, which keeps the song like interesting and like I said very strong melodically, and just such a damn catchy track there. So like And Through the Wire, an easy 10 out of 10 from me.
If looks could kill, they probably will in games without frontiers.
And the next one is called Games Without Frontiers, which opens up side 2, which this song begins with a kind of vocal riff what was done by Kate Bush. Like Gabriel was quite a popular guy, like has to be said. Like Kate Bush's contribution really characterizes this song. Like it gives it like it's kind of like hook, like the bit where like you'll remember to the song. Lyrically, it's a bit more politically charged, like a song like aimed at like international wars, like and like politicians like who like so like encourage these. Like it's one of like Gabriel's biggest solo hits. It reached number 4 like on like the UK charts, but only number 48 like in like America, which I'm sure like I said like when I reviewed like Bowie's Scary Monsters like from like the same year, like what he's buying like in like 1980, which could have like possibly been better than like this song, like preventing it going like top 40, because it's a wonderful track there, like Games Without Frontiers. We'll get a 9 out of 10 from me. And then the absolutely fantastic songs keep coming. Next one's called Not One of Us, which this song begins quite interestingly with some kind of studio laughter, like I'm like mucking about, which gives the album a kind of like human edge to it, which like was kind of missing like from like off like the other songs. But like the fact that like he kind of like he like misses like his cue like with this song, like again like it gives it something like different, this track here. Again, sonically, this track sounds like the future. Like, despite being like over like 30 years old, it still sounds fresh like to this day. And like I love the way like it actually like builds up like to like the chorus gradually, which again, like I said, catchy but not like overly commercial. Maybe the ending to this one drags on like a little bit like too long. Like it's about 5 minutes this track here. Like again, they maybe could have shaved off like about 30 seconds or so, but still an excellent song there though, nonetheless.
It's nice here with a view of the trees.
And then the record kind of closes with 2 more sort of calming songs, which is definitely what we need like after like the last like 3 or 4 like more like intense like rocking tracks. The first one is Lead a Normal Life, which yeah, like a lot more slow, a lot more calming. And like I certainly hear like a lot of Bowie like influence on this song, like especially the second side of Low. Like it has a sort of soft like marimba played throughout it, like and like subtle piano parts. It's just a really nice, very calming track. There is like only like one verse to this track like very like minimalistic lyrically. But and like maybe the song like itself like could have been like a bit shorter, because again like it does kind of stretch out like to like about 5 minutes like in length. But still though, like not a bad song there though. Like Lead a Normal Life would get a 7 out of 10 from me. And then we close with an absolute Gabriel classic. It's SMB Co, which is another kind of political song here. This one is a anti-apartheid song written about the death of a guy, Steve Biko, like who was a activist who died while in police custody for breaking a order like not to leave his house. It's a very like tragic death. I mean, and this song is kind of like a sort of fitting tribute to him, and like also like the whole like sort of like anti-apartheid movement. Is got a great sort of fusing like of like African like elements like in like kind of like the vocal like parts to it, like and like also like the drum beats, but then he's kind of fused that like with like this like distorted treated guitar sounds, and like it just works so well. Like although it is like more than 7 minutes long, it doesn't drag for me. Like I think it remains a very interesting, very sort of powerful moving track. Another one of the singles from the record, it got to number 38 like on like the UK charts. Not a brilliant performance there, but certainly like time like has been kind to this song. Like how like it has like continued like to grow in stature like throughout like into like the mid 80s, like early 90s, like when like kind of like the meaning like of this like became like a lot more sort of powerful. Another quick thing I just wanted to mention was Gabriel a few years ago done a project called You'll Scratch My Back, like where like he covered like other artists' songs, and then like those artists like covered like a Gabriel song, and like on that record Paul Simon like covers like the song Biko, and like he does a good job of it, Paul Simon, but just not as good like as like this like original version. Like very, very difficult to beat like this one. So Biko closes off the album perfectly, a 10 out of 10. Okay, so overall score for this album is 89%, which, yeah, this is definitely the best album I have like off like Peter Gabriel's. The other ones I have are his first one, which is a good record. There's some good tracks on it, but like quite a bit of filler there, and like also So, which was I think personally quite like overrated. Like again, like there's some good tracks in it, but like a lot of them just like drag on for far too long. And I think on here like he strikes like the perfect balance between like accessibility and like artistic credibility, because these songs are catchy as anything. Like songs like I Don't Remember and Through the Wire, Games of Absolute Tears, Not One of Those, Biko, melodically they're really, really great songs, like they stick in your head. But also lyric wise, like he's like not like compromising like himself. Like again, like these are very sort of like quite like paranoid, like quite like personal songs. And this is also like arguably before he became a little bit too like big for his boots, like and boots like with like sort of like the So record, before he came like again like mega like touring star. Like he was still kind of building up like a sort of like solo following. Like and this record kind of for me like is easily like his best work, like which I've heard. So yeah, that's been my review of Peter Gabriel's Melt. Like I'd be interested to know what you think of this album in the comment section, and I will see you all next time for the next review. Goodbye.